Oh, welcome everybody to this beautiful Thursday evening. I tell you, we finally thawed out here in New Orleans for a little bit, and I'm so glad because I can't take it anymore. That's I'll tell you right now, I'm being an absolute weenie about the cold. I'm just not built for it anymore. But I had my standard whiskey and 7. It got me through it. It's like I said last show, it's my survival kit. So I hope everybody's had a chance to pour themselves a little cocktail. Get ready to sit back and relax for an incredible show we have for you this evening. You're not going to want to miss it, so you're going to want to stick around. Take care of a little quick housekeeping real quick. As always, if you haven't visited our merch page, please do so. Check it out. The QR code will take you straight to our merch page. It has all kinds of great items, t-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, even the official Cocktails with Cav drinking glass, so you can pour your cocktail and enjoy the show with. And that'll be a great way to support the show and get yourself some great swag in the process. And as always, we'll have our QR code that'll take you straight to our tip function up in the corner all show long. Please consider visiting our tip page. It'll take you straight to it. And it doesn't take much, just help support the show. And anybody who does support the show at our tip function will receive the first short story in my series on Barnes & Noble. The pages make the book part 1 for free. So I'm looking forward to giving away a lot of good stuff tonight. So please consider supporting the show up at our tip function at the QR code in the corner. So anyway, tonight's show is going to be incredible. We're going to have an incredible guest in the dark fiction and erotica genre. And, we're going to be talking about erotica. So I picked a special background track for tonight, as you can hear. And I think I'll even talk all night in my Barry White voice. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing that for the clicks. Actually, we're going to have a great discussion on the wonderful genre of dark fiction and erotica in its truest art form. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage the wonderfully talented writer, Suzy Vella. Oh, Suzy, thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me, George.
Oh, God, I was so happy that you were gracious enough to accept my invitation. I've gotten to know you somewhat on X, and you're just a wonderful person to engage with. So I am so glad you decided to come on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a nice, pleasant surprise to get your message to invite me on. So thank you.
Oh, well, no, the pleasure's all mine. But I tell you, we love to have our viewers and the potential readers out there get to know us indie authors and entertainers and artists, because it's so... we're out there working hard. And so please tell us a little about yourself and how things are going on your end of the pond.
Sure. So I'm coming to you obviously from London. Well, just a little bit outside of London, but I doubt many of your listeners or readers will be too familiar with where I'm from. I've been writing for a long time, actually, not always professionally, but I've been sort of going online with a lot of my work in the last few months on Medium, which I think is where you've probably found most of my work. Started out writing a lot of sort of dark poetry. I was going through quite a sort of dark time in my life at the time when I sort of started with this, and then started uploading things onto that, and then it grew from there, got into dark fiction, suddenly somehow moved into erotica. Don't ask how, I don't know how. Well, I can tell you how, but that's what I'm doing, but certainly loving that. And now here we are, a few months in, and working on my first novel.
I noticed, I tell you, when I came across your work and just reading some of it dark fiction's a kind of fascinating, genre for the reader. And, some people, I assume, have misconceptions about it. And, maybe you could explain a little of how you, one, got into dark fiction, but also kind of how you brand yourself in the writing you're doing.
Yeah, so I suppose I've always had quite a morbid curiosity with a lot of things concerning, this is going to sound awful, but concerning death, all sorts, the supernatural, paranormal, vampires, werewolves, all that sort of thing, black magic. And I just kind of found a niche and something that the things that I'm interested in and things that I enjoy reading about, I thought, well, why not try writing about it myself? And it kind of came from there, be honest. Moving away from dark poetry more into writing feature pieces. I've done a small mini series on a woman who basically has her encounter with the devil, and how that kind of ends. I won't say any more about that because you can go read it on Medium.
That's right. No giving it away, right?
Oh no, don't give it away. You've got to leave something for the reader. And then I had an idea with the book that I'm currently doing about, again, drawing into the whole demonic attachment thing, because that's a subject that fascinates me anyway. And I thought, well, there's a little niche here that's not been written about with the view that I'm doing with it. The kind of psychological deterioration of somebody going through a possession, but seeing it from their point of view, and sort of, what goes on and how they start treating the people around them.
That's fascinating. Yeah, it's that from their point of view, that has to be fascinating, sure.
I think so, because everything I've read so far, well, certainly for the most part, has all been kind of describing the person going through it, but never from their perspective. So I thought, well, why not shift this around and write it from their perspective and what they're going through? Yeah,
and I tell you, that particular storyline, like I said, to me is fascinating. But do you find your inspiration is coming from within, or just trying to get to know you? Is it? Are you drawing some things?
I would say, basically, I'm one of these people who strange stuff has always happened to. Throughout my life, weird stuff has happened. I've lived in houses which have, this may sound absolutely bonkers to a lot of people, but I've lived in houses where there's been all sorts of weird activity going on, like poltergeist activity, ghosts, all the rest of it. And I thought, drawing on some of the experiences that I've had, albeit it's never been so far as a demonic attachment, but I thought, right, thankfully. But I thought, why not draw upon some of these things that I've kind of seen and experienced, and really tap into that side of things and create, a really exciting book from it.
Oh, well, and as somebody who's fascinated by that topic and poltergeists and things of that nature, I have to ask for everybody, did you get out? Because we always sit here watching saying, why don't they have to leave?
I did get out. Thankfully, I was only living in this particular flat for around 6 or 7 months, and I lived with somebody, the flatmate that I had at the time. She didn't believe in any of this. She thought it was nonsense, and literally over the time that we were both living there, even she started to realize that, do you know what, maybe there is more going on than what we really understand. And we left the flat, and do you know what, it was a lovely flat and a really lovely bit of London, and we both thought to ourselves, why is this so cheap? Why can we afford this? And, it was quite soon after that we realized, why it was that cheap.
Right. Well, did you investigate maybe the cause of that particular haunting?
Yes, I did. So where it was, and actually the area that this was is loosely based on where I've actually set the scene for my novel. It was in an area of London called Primrose Hill. Some of your readers may be familiar with that. And basically Primrose Hill is actually built over, it's kind of built over a plague pit. And so we think that maybe what was going on under our house was actually, activity linked to that. So, wow. Restless speak.
Right. You're making me take a drink of my gin and tonic on that one. What do you have over there?
Well, I'm having tonic minus the vodka because I'm doing dry January.
Oh, dry. dry January's a sin where I'm from. That's a
I can see that, and I'm kind of regretting my choice. I'm thinking maybe I'll be doing dry Monday to Friday and letting myself off from a Friday night through to Sunday.
That sounds like a plan, right? Yeah, I can't be cocktails with Cav sans cocktail, so
Wrong there, isn't there?
that's it. Well, and I noticed going through some of your work on and here we could just show a lot of your great work is on Medium. And I noticed, you did branch out from some of the darker fiction into some erotica as well, and which might be a misunderstood genre for a lot of people too,
So I got into that. Well, I kind of fell into it by accident, really. So a friend of mine suggested starting to write hundos, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's the 100-word prompts. So it's run by Skylar Quinn and Sunny Morgan, both on X. And they run a publication called Crushed. And what they do is every day they give us a word prompt, and we have to write 100 words based around that word prompt. And a lot of the words, the connotations that go with that just make writing an erotic story really easy.
Right.
Other times, it doesn't have to be erotic, but I just found I really enjoyed it, and the words just came easily, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually enjoying writing this, so why not, explore it a little bit more. So I've written a few sort of longer feature pieces, along those themes. But I kind of fell into it by accident, purely because someone just happened to mention, why not try it as almost like a warm-up exercise. So each day, you start when you're kind of, you sit down, you fire up your laptop and you think, right, I need to get my writing head on. A good way of warming up is just to do a 100-word story on a word prompt. It kind of gets you into the swing of it.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and I could see, especially writer's block can be problematic sometimes, can it? It's just so much.
Well, I literally before Christmas, I had a little episode where I thought, you know what, I don't think I want to be doing this anymore. I'm going to throw in the towel. I'm done with it all. I'm over writing. And then all I realized was it's just a bit of writer's block. You get over it. You just have to kind of plow through it and just accept that, there's going to be times that maybe the words don't come, but that's okay. They will come. They always do. But you just need to cut yourself a bit of slack. And I think as a writer, I think other writers would resonate there.
Yeah, and that's true. And and being an indie author is hard enough because you have all the back end things you need to do as well, besides just getting through the piece,
Yeah, you have to do all your own marketing. You have to do everything. I'm self-employed anyway, so I'm kind of used to kind of being the all singing, all dancing person for my business. But with writing as well as an indie author, you have to do, it's all the behind the scenes work, isn't it?
Yes.
All your constant plugging yourself and, getting your name. Relentless at times.
It can be relentless. That's true. And what do you do before we get really deep into some of your work? What do you do to unwind for yourself?
Well, I'm quite highly strung at the moment because usually, George, when I come home, it's usually a glass of red. But sadly, this month that's not an option, although I'm beginning to maybe regret that decision. But yeah, if I'm not writing or working, then I'm reading or watching movies. They're the two things that I do a lot of. Otherwise, cooking. Basically, if I could have my time again, I'd probably be a Michelin star chef if I could. But I love cooking. I love cooking for other people. That's probably what I enjoy a lot of, really.
Do you favor a particular kind of food when you cook, or because we're big eaters here in New Orleans, we pride ourselves on food.
Oh, I've heard. I cook a lot of Italian, a lot of Greek. Southern European, like Mediterranean style cooking. That's kind of big for me. But I lived in Sweden for a lot of years. I've got family over there as well. So we're kind of like a lot of the cuisine I have is probably Scandi based as well. So Christmas, for example, wasn't your traditional kind of British turkey with all the trimmings. It was very much like a smorgasbord of meats and seafood and that sort of thing. So we kind of do 2 Christmases here, a Swedish Christmas and a British Christmas.
No, well, that sounds lovely. It's making me hungry, that's for sure.
I'm diet and not drinking.
And what do you like to read when you do read?
I read a lot of different stuff. A lot of dark fiction, horror. I mean, I grew up reading, Stephen King pretty much raised me as a teenager. That's kind of how I got into horror. So I pretty much read all of his stuff. And then recently I've got into lots of indie authors I love to read. But Paul Tremblay as well, I've recently bought a selection of his books, which I'm working my way through. I read anything. If I see a good review of something, if I see something that someone's raved about, I'll give it a chance. I'll read it.
No, that's
not particular tastes. I'll read anything.
Yeah, when I speak to authors, I always wonder if their aside reading hobby sticks to the genre they like to write in.
It can be quite surprising, can't it, actually?
yeah, definitely can. Well, let's talk about you have a lot of great work on Medium.
Thank you.
And if you could just, kind of take us through some of it, because I know the readers need to come visit you there, that's for sure.
So I publish most of my work through the Ranch Hand Agency, which some of your readers might be familiar with. So the Ranch Hand Agency and Crushed are the 2 publications I use most. Crushed is where I post all my sort of, erotic stories. The Ranch Hand Agency is where all my dark fiction goes, but sometimes there's a bit of a crossover. So I've done a recent series on, I think I mentioned it before, about there's a woman and she basically gets a demonic attachment, very similar to the book I'm writing, but this has a more sort of erotic element to it, how she gets kind of entwined with him and all sorts going on there. That was I think a 6-part piece that I did, and I try, if I'm doing those sorts of things, it's good to kind of have them lined up in advance. I learned, so rather than writing one piece and then leaving it for a couple of weeks before writing the next, I found that it's good to kind of write them all and then release them every few days to kind of keep the reader engaged in the story.
And I could see it, and I do like Medium in the way it's laid out for someone that's putting their pieces, and you could see where you have your hundos listed.
I've got a lot of those. I think I've got about 70 hundos now, which I did within 3 months or something.
Yeah, but that's a really, I think, to me, that's going to be interesting for me to dive into, and
well, it's good for little short snippets, isn't it? So I think with Medium, I try to think that most people are probably reading it on their phones, and they just want little short snippets of things. If they want something longer, they're going to have an ebook or something, aren't they? So I think you've got to keep it reasonably short for these articles. Certainly, that's my perspective on it. And I think with the hundos particularly, sometimes it sounds really easy, doesn't it? Oh, write 100 words on this, but you've got to have a story in there,
Sure.
Not just a paragraph. You actually have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think it's actually harder than it sometimes seems. But it's a good challenge, and I'm enjoying doing them.
Right, and I think maybe aspiring writers, that might be watching, or potential readers, just to dive into those and give you a little inspiration,
And I have created, certainly with some of the hundos, little mini series. So I find certainly with some of the stories, some of them, it kind of leads on naturally to a next step. So you can incorporate the next day's word or whatever into the next story quite well.
Yeah, and I have to ask, I know, on the erotica end, because and I'm sure a lot of viewers are asking, but how do you, when you're writing the erotica and more specifically afterwards, when you go to market it, does that lend it? Because like I said, I think it's a misunderstood genre a lot of the times, but there's also Well, I think we all know how the internet is. How does that go for a creator?
Sometimes, yeah, with erotica, you've kind of got to think, you know what, most things have already been written. And I know that's the case with a lot of things, like everything we write, in some way or another, it's been written. But I think it's sometimes hard to kind of keep the ideas fresh and think, okay, well, I've told this scenario several times over now. How can I kind of revisit it in a new and interesting way? I think that's kind of the big thing for erotica writers now. Is just kind of, rather than churning over the same content, it's about finding new ways to say similar things.
Right, and I think that's kind of the part that most people would miss when it comes to erotica. It isn't just, Jane came in and took her clothes off. Everything was great. No, it is building that story that doesn't involve the erotic piece.
So you have a subplot to it, having a bit of a storyline, not just, so-and-so's, tearing their clothes off or whatever. You've got to actually have, some content in there that's interesting to kind of engage the reader and think, you know what? Oh, I've not read something like this before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know reading some of your work, I find you do a good job of that because that is the important part. Like any art form,
yeah,
the subplot and the story drives the desire and makes the work exciting,
Bit of character building as well, and that's why I quite like sometimes just carrying on like with a particular story, even if it's just a short hundo, thinking, you know what, we can develop this character a little bit more and take this into the next story, because some of them are quite interesting and you think, oh, actually, there's a little relationship brewing there that we can maybe explore a bit and kind of draw on in the next episode.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I definitely recommend all the viewers to definitely go check you out on Medium, and it's, and the QR code, I think, I'm not sure you can see it on camera, but I always got a backwards camera problem, but I highly recommend the QR code that's been up all show. Will take you straight to your Medium site please, I definitely recommend y'all check that out. And are you, is all your work on Medium?
Yeah, all of my recent work. So I've been on Medium since summer last year. So about around sort of 6-7 months or so. But I would say, definitely explore that, and then keep an eye out on X, because I'll be promoting, when my book is finally finished, I'll be promoting that a lot on there. It's just, I'm about midway through now, so I've probably got maybe in another, I don't know, a few months. I'm kind of saying this out loud because I've put this deadline on myself that I want this book finished ASAP. Keep an eye out on X for that, because I'll be talking about that a bit more in the couple of months.
Oh, for sure. And you have to give Cocktails with Cav a scoop. Tell us about this new novel that we didn't know anything about.
Exactly. You'll be the first to know, George, don't worry.
Gotcha. Well, and is it going to be a dark fiction novel, or?
It will be a dark fiction novel with a little bit of erotica thrown in, because it wouldn't be a piece of me if it didn't. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm drawing in everything now that I've worked on for this. And
no hint, no just a hint of the story.
Oh, I can give you a hint of a story, yeah. So it's basically the story of, it's the gradual demise of a woman who's going through a demonic attachment, and she undergoes extreme kind of physical and psychological deterioration as the attachment intensifies. And she ends up getting wrongly sectioned in a psychiatric ward because her family around her think that it's just an episode of psychosis and she's having a mental breakdown. And there is a sexual element to it, as she basically gets seduced by this entity, which is how she gets possessed in the first place, and how it kind of slowly gains control over her body and her mind. And as the book continues, the attacks intensify, and I better not say any more, actually, because I don't want to give away any spoilers. But yeah, that's where we're up to anyway, and that's what I can say about it.
Well, it sounds like a great story and great characters to dive into. So I'm definitely looking forward to you finishing, that's for sure.
I hope so. Thank you.
Oh, God. Suzy, well, I tell you what, I am so, again, I know I've said it before early in the show, but I'm so honored you accepted our invitation to come on as a guest. And ladies and gentlemen in the audience, got to know Suzy on X. She's a wonderful person, funny, great to engage with and discuss things with, and just please give her a follow on X at Suzy Vella. It's up there on the screen for you. Definitely give her a follow and keep tabs on this new novel that's coming out. And by all means, please go visit the QR code at the top. It's medium.com at Suzy Vella 7, I believe it is.
Yep.
And that'll take you straight to her Medium site, where she has just a plethora of work that is some really good work, and you'll enjoy the dark fiction as well as some of the erotica as well. Man, Suzy, did we miss anything on your work that we have to tell everybody?
No, I think that's covered everything. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no. Like I said, the pleasure is all mine. And please, by all means, you got to promise the show you'll come back on when you get this novel released. We're looking forward to it.
You've just given me another deadline there, George, so it's all good.
That's right. I'm all about the pressure. No. Oh, well, Suzy, again, thanks so much for coming to us from London. And taking the time to be on the show, and enjoy your, I don't want to say it, enjoy your dry January, but
yeah, I don't know how long it's going to be that for, to be honest.
well, message me on X and let me know when you finally cave.
In about an hour, probably.
Well, Suzy, thanks so much again. I appreciate you, and keep in touch. And like I said, promise you'll come back on the show when you do release your novel. We're looking forward to it.
Lovely. Thank you, George.
All right. Cheers, Suzy.